In my teens, I got hooked on so many different art forms that it was really hard for me to make a manageable selection. So I didn't. Instead, I just cut down on my attendance at school in order to find time for all these artistic endeavors. This actually went pretty well, although I came close to being expelled a few times, but it was totally worth it, as I was able to gain insight piece by piece into so many areas of art and artistry. I was able to learn about the beauty and challenges of each of them. But what impressed me the most, and continues to do so, is how closely related they all are. Art is a phenomenon with countless facets, and the more you learn about it, the more ways you will discover how it can enrich your life. I was fortunate enough never to have lacked initiative and a certain audacity, both of which I think are crucial to any achievement. What seems just as important, however, is that you have accurate standards for what you do, and that you ensure a certain objective quality control. One of the first people to help me enormously in this regard was my piano professor at the conservatory, who was a real master of his art, almost legendary in his reputation. He was greatly admired for his tremendous craft and artistry, as well as feared for his relentless and very direct manner. His students were these crazy super talents from all around the world, brilliant pianists with skills I could only dream of. Naturally, I didn't even think of applying to his class. However, one day I ended up being invited to study with him after he heard me play, and I felt extremely flattered for a very brief moment, only to become really anxious about taking lessons with that guy. So I practiced like mad for our first lesson, and when the day finally arrived, he sat down at the other end of the classroom and asked me to play through the whole thing, half an hour of Bach. He listened calmly while I was busy battling the greatest pianistic challenge of my life. And when I was finally done, after a moment of awkward silence, he asked me in a very friendly tone, "So you want people to pay to listen to you someday, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, you've got a lot of work to do. Because the way you played just now, you should have paid me to listen to you." He then sat down at the grand piano next to mine and showed me, by playing various excerpts, all from memory, and while looking at me and speaking to me, how not to just play this music, but how to really bring it to life. So what I realized is that artists with confidence, they grow from being humbled. And when they lack confidence, they grow from encouragement. My professor, he gave me both. He encouraged me by inviting me into his class, and he humbled me by setting my standards right. If you're on an artistic journey, regardless of the level or the goal, find those people who can humble and encourage you. One of the most important and, to me, most uplifting discoveries I made along my path is that when the setting is right, people are naturally drawn to art, regardless of their background. And if this doesn't happen, there's either something wrong with the setting, or it wasn't real art that was sold to you as such. So what actually is art? It must be more than a matter of taste, right? There is probably only one common denominator that everyone ends up with. Art is a mystery and can never be fully comprehended just by thinking about it. It is the same as with thinking about God or love. You can approach it from whatever angle and be as clever about it as you like, but that will only ever give you one part of the puzzle. Besides, people have their own views, their own experiences, and their own opinions. But this doesn't mean that there's nothing to agree on. On the contrary, art has been around for tens of thousands of years, at least. It has taken the most diverse forms and styles. It has gone through development and decline in different cultures at different times, and countless great thinkers and observers have sought to describe its essence. To approach what this essence could be, I suggest viewing art not as something people do, but rather as a force that can emerge from artistic activity or from a work of art, sometimes stronger, sometimes less so. It is like an additional dimension that can open up on an object or on an activity, just as the nourishing dimension of food can be elevated into Michelin star fine dining, right? So I'm going to break it down into 7 key elements, the 7 pillars of art, to which I think any artistic endeavor is in some way related. Here we go. First one, skill and craft. So this is probably the most obvious, and for many, the most defining element of art. However, good skill, good craft, does not automatically lead to good art. In art, craft is always a means and never the end. It's a necessary means, of course. It's involved in any artistic process. But it is never the craft alone that determines the quality of art. Innovation and authenticity. All great works of art have at least a touch of the new and distinct about them. And in some cases, the revolutionary element is even the central one. But just because something is new or different does not make it good. And it is not only in art that the authentic is fundamentally more powerful than the imitation. 3, tradition and context. Some artists build on traditions, others break with them. Either option requires knowledge of those traditions and their defining features. Art always reflects its cultural context in some way, whether through mirroring, contrast, or a mixture of both. Dedication and discipline. Genuine artists see themselves as a tool to make art shine, and never the other way around. And if you're the tool, you need to hone yourself. Genuine dedication, when put into practice, always involves a degree of sacrifice and effort. 5, message. So there are works of art that have such a strong impact precisely because of their message. And there are others, especially in instrumental music, dance, and abstract art, that are more subtle in the way they communicate, evoking thoughts and feelings in a more veiled way. Universality and timelessness. Art reflects fundamental human experiences, such as love, conflict, hope, mortality, etc. And it uses means of expression that resonate with the human spirit and heart. Timelessness refers to an artwork's ability to maintain its significance, appeal, and expressive power long after its creation, remaining relevant regardless of societal changes. And lastly, love. Without diving into another mystery, love is the driving force for creation and the connecting force between beings. Art is all about creation as well as connection. from the artist through their work to the people. So I believe that these 7 pillars, they're not just for artists, but can be applied to anything you value in your life. The way of the artist is not primarily about talent, ability, or performance. I believe it's about an inner attitude, a mindset, a way of approaching things, dreams, challenges, life in general. Artists are ordinary people who strive for the extraordinary, in search of something that transcends the everyday and the mundane. They dedicate themselves to universal ideas of unity and truth, rather than personal gain. They accept uncertainty, struggle, and failure as integral parts of any journey of significance, and they expose themselves to it as often as is necessary. They definitely don't do things to get rich and famous, but because to them it is right, beautiful, and strong. So, doesn't all that sound like how all the perfect versions of ourselves would go about things, about life? The way of the artist is open to all of us, in whatever field or at whatever level we choose to engage with it. So I dare you all to start approaching whatever it is you value in your life, be it professional endeavors, family, friends, social engagement, or a personal adventure of any kind. Approach it like an artist. It will help you make the most of it, and it will inspire the people around you. And if you don't know how to get there, there is some great advice by the Italian sculptor Michelangelo. He was once asked how he went about creating such an astonishing masterpiece like his David. And he said, "Oh, it's very easy. You take a lump of rock and you just chip away anything that doesn't look like David." So to me, what he's saying is that it doesn't really matter how you get there or how difficult it might be to achieve it. Art is about turning the inside out. And therefore, what matters most is the clarity and urgency of your inner vision. If you really want something badly enough, and you just start and keep on chipping around at that rock, at some point you'll find yourself in a state of flow. You'll forget what you're actually doing. And eventually, there's your David. Art is a gift that offers an escape from the desolation and adversities of this world. It offers a way to reflect on the mysteries of human nature, to find meaning, and to discover extraordinary beauty. It is all there for you, ready to be explored. Just start somewhere, be it as a creator or as a contemplator, ideally both. Open your eyes, ears, and heart to the great variety of art forms, because they all inform and inspire each other. Don't ever let your starting point or your level of skill hold you back, as artistry does not start to become valuable when it's successful. It starts to become valuable the second you start pursuing it. Just try things out, and you will somehow be guided in the direction that brings you the most purpose and fulfillment. Explore all opportunities, because they multiply as they are seized. And always keep in mind that doing is like wanting, just more badass. All right, let's wrap this up with one final quote by one of the most admired musical geniuses of the 20th century, the composer Igor Stravinsky. He names music specifically here, but I think you can replace the word with anything you hold dear in your life. Music, art, love, faith, truth, home, freedom, family, friendship, altruism, you name it. Thank you.